Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible for healing. And today, ancestral healing is the topic. I have authors of a new book that we have coming out with me today, The Ancestors Within, Celebrate and Honor Your Sacred Origins. Our lead author, Amy Gillespie Dougherty, has a huge mission for this topic. Amy, thank you so much for what you are doing in the world, for ancestral healing, for your mission for this book series. This is book 4 of her series, you guys. Congrats on that, Amy. And she has a summit coming up with all of the author experts. Oh my goodness, I have been so honored to be in your world, and I've learned so much about ancestral healing due to these beautiful expert authors and everything that has been going on with the books. So let me tell you who I have here in my Zoom room with me. Dr. Ariana Platten is the founder of lead innovator at asoulfulworld.com, a global wisdom community offering tools and teachings to transform your life. I have Claire Marie with me. She's the owner and operator of CMK Energy, your home for energy healing, spiritual development, and metaphysical exploration. Crystal Rasmussen is a generational healing teacher and spiritual guide. She supports you in releasing pain and suffering from your ancient bloodline stored within your genetic lineage to heal you today. And Star Studanovic's focus is a specialty of Reiki, along with restorative yoga, accompanied by utilization of crystals and essential oils. Her other love is calligraphy, and she can do ancestor messages. I don't know if do is the right word, Star. She's going to tell you more about that in a couple of minutes. Yeah. Ancestor messages are available, and if you have read one of our other books, you're going to already know that. So, Ariana, you're going to start this party off. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Thank you for doing this. I'm really honored to be part of this book and the series of books. This has been really an amazing experience for me. It's just made me look back at the ancestral stuff that is part of my life in kind of a different way. I think a lot of times when we think about ancestors, we think about those people in our direct bloodline who we can relate back to, maybe whose names we know and whose stories might have been passed down to us. But there are other ancestors available to us that are not part of our bloodline. And so what I wrote about in this part of the series is an experience that I had in South Korea in a 4,000-year-old Buddhist temple. And the experience of crossing the threshold into that temple, which is very interesting because in America, we think of our thresholds as being that kind of little flat metal strip that you walk across when you go from one room to another. In these older ancient Asian temples, there's about an 8 to 12-inch plank that you have to step over to walk from the outside of the temple to the inside. And I share about an experience I had standing on the outside and then stepping over and putting one foot on the inside and being pulled to my knees in spontaneous tears because of the ancestor energy of prayer that existed in that place. And a lot of what I'm teaching in that chapter really is about entering mindfully when we go into other places, not just ancient places, but any place we walk on the earth, someone else was there before us. And it's not only possible, but likely that someone is still there. So even in the case of our understanding of ghosts, we tend to think, oh, there's a ghost here, when oftentimes what is there is an ancestral energy of what happened in that place. What happened there? Was there a war there? Was there a family there? Was there an amazing miracle birth there? Was there a temple or a sacred place where people worshiped there? Those ancestors remain available to us. So my chapter shares a bit about my experience with the ancestors of this temple It's called Flow Like Water because that's what they taught me. And it really invites people to and instructs people to be mindful about the ancestral influence that is not necessarily familial, but incredibly wise and potent and available.
You're giving me a moment about some of the places that I've been with the huge chunk of, it's usually like wood or something in the way. But the other thing that you made me think of is a lot of the entrances are very low also. Like if you are not paying attention, you're either going to smack yourself in the head or you're going to trip over the big thing at your feet. But what I love about that is that it forces you to be present as you enter. And it becomes this, ooh, I'm here now and I'm about to step through something important, like pay attention. Yeah, I love that. Anything else you want to say about that?
I don't want to give away too much of the chapter. I loved writing it. And I really hope that it inspires people to think about that when they're traveling, when they're going out to cathedrals and temples and sacred places. But really, as I said, any place we walk on the earth, someone has walked before us and there's wisdom available. So I hope people will gain some tools from my chapter for how to access that.
I love that awareness. All right, you guys, stay tuned for more from Ariana in a minute or two. Claire, you're up next. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
I love the way Ariana had put that. Ariana, I can't wait to read your chapter in this book as well, because a lot of it is that my ancestral connection wasn't just my lineage, but also those who walked the land before. And it has a lot to do with lifetimes of information, not just the lineage of family ancestors. It's about clearing the past to create your future and how we assimilate all of that energy into our system to clear trauma, clear so that we can't clear anything that keeps us stagnant, so that we can bring that wisdom in to be present and allow that wisdom to help us create our future without stagnant or disability within ourselves moving forward. And I mean that as heaviness, weight, trauma that is usually held consistent in a lot of the energy work that we do. Is the more we clear that, the more we are able to live in a fresh, open energy that allows us to move forward in our path, staying present versus constantly repeating that which we've already done. We now can make choices from a different sort of a different place for experience and learning versus reparation and repair. So that's what my chapter is about. It tells the story of how I learned how to integrate all of that information to clear energy that has held me back from things that I have wanted to participate in my life. One of which is being an author and writing a story and not being afraid to put it into the world. I love that this is Brave Healer Productions, because it takes a lot of bravery that I'm aware of to be able to talk about these things and put that out into the world, especially knowing judgment. And so it's fantastic to be able to free myself from a lot of that, to make those steps forward to a life that has really been exceptional and incredibly powerful as I have stepped into that clarity. And so I'm hoping to be able to offer that to others so that they can clear what they need to clear, so that they can be as present and as ecstatic in their lives as they can be. And I think that that's part of our journey and what allows us to fully live rather than just survive.
So Claire, you've used the word stagnant a few times. So I'm going to ask you a question to help the listener who might be in a bit of a stagnant life, but how is that showing up? What are they feeling? What are they experiencing? Help them wake up in the stagnant. Describe what that is, or maybe what it was for you.
There's a lot of different ways we can have stagnant energy. And I think Star might be able, as a Reiki master, be able to talk to us about some of this. Is as we sometimes continually go over, we're making the same choices over and over and over again. We're in a loop, and we feel stuck, and we feel we don't have a choice. We feel we don't have the ability to get out of this continuing stuck space. And as we continue to stay in that stuck space gets denser and denser and denser, creating a block in our energy flow, which has us kind of locking down in our body, mind, and spirit, from being able to be able to flow in our experience on this planet at the time that we are here. So the more we can clear those blockages before they become stagnant and debilitating, we can continue to have flow, right? So if we talk about, sometimes I use the description of a lint trap in your dryer, right? You always clean your lint trap, because otherwise it could create fire, because it heats up, the air can't move freely, your laundry gets moldy and crusty. The more you can clear that debris, clear that stagnant air, get some movement in there, the more your clothes are going to dry, the less option you have of fire. And being able to have that air keeps your machine running well. So the more we can clear that stagnancy, the more we can look at something that we are continually doing over and over again and saying, I don't have a choice in this, shifting it so that we can see that we can clear that space. It'll offer us more ability to make choices that can allow us to heal and move that energy back into a flowing space so that we don't remain stuck.
All right, thank you, Claire.
I hope that's consistent. And
These are big topics, you guys. And so if you're sitting there listening to that and you're thinking, oh yeah, like I think I'm recognizing a cyclical loop in my life. I keep ending up in relationships that are toxic. I keep ending up in this place where I'm miserable at my job and the boss is this or that, right? So I don't want to continue this one too much more, except to say that that's going to show up for all of you in lots of different ways. And if you can recognize the patterns, we have a whole book about that in this series, as a matter of fact. If you're recognizing your patterns, you are on the way, you are on the journey, you're having the awareness. Thank you, Claire. All right, Crystal, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here as well. And so it's interesting that I'm following Claire, because I think my chapter sort of ties into that as well. It is the gift of life, honoring your ancestral lineage by living well today. And what we do so often is we get stuck in the patterns and the traumas and the inability to move forward or live authentically and truly make choices from a conscious space based in what our soul and our heart desires. And so throughout it, I speak about, how important it is for you to really, by living your life and your values and your truth within the world, then you're actually honoring your ancestors and you're healing those places where they weren't able to, where they were experienced those traumas and that pain, or weren't able to make those choices that they really truly desired. And so by doing that, we heal ourselves, our ancestors, and our future children of the earth.
Don't you think that half the journey is figuring out what our truth is?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Like taking the time to sit and ask yourself, what is that for me beyond what I've been taught?
Yeah, and that is something that I've worked a lot of throughout the years, because families, there's so much programming and there's so much conditioning and on what you're supposed to do, what you should do, how you're supposed to live. These are our beliefs. These are what you're supposed to choose, like the expectations. And so it's really important to sit and really be with, who are you really? Does that belief system, that pattern serve you and what you actually truly desire in the world for yourself and for your family for the future?
Yeah, it's such
Mhm.
important work, I think, to do some of that.
Yeah.
And as you dive into ancestral healing, you're going to have so many opportunities, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so that's, that's what I do with my work normally, is we look at the patterns, we heal the patterns, the traumas that have been passed down throughout the bloodline, so that you are able to be free to fully express who you are in the world at a soul level.
Thank you, Crystal. I want to say just a quick thank you before we move to Star. I want to say a quick thank you to all of you. It really does take a warrior to sign up for telling your vulnerable story, first of all. But then you stepped up with master teachings, all of you. You have all spent a long time in the study of, you have devoted a life to learning and seeking and understanding this path. And I want to honor you all and say thank you for that. Thanks for saying, yeah, I'll do that. I'm going to trailblaze this, right? And then coming into the book and writing it down and putting it in black and white so that our readers can have a practical experience. These books are such powerful toolkits. And we wanted all of your voices and all of the ways, because we know there's a lot of people who need to understand and hear it in their particular way. Somebody said something the other day to me, no tool works for everyone, and no one tool works for one person every single time. And I thought, yeah, that's why we need the toolkit. Something's effect is wearing out a little bit. Well, there is something else you can try. There's some other way to go at the problem. So I love this book for so many reasons, but that's a big one.
I think
Star,
that's such a gift. I'm sorry to interrupt, Laura, but
Yeah.
I think that is such a gift that Amy is doing with these books, is
Definitely.
offering tool bags to people. And I use that consistently in my practice because of that. You're not one way of meditating is going to work for you all the time. How do you find out how to use a variety? And Amy's been really great in offering that to people with so many alternative ways and different people and different experiences. And it's such a gift to be able to be among all of these authors in that space. So thanks, ladies, for your input and the tool bags that you're allowing people to have, myself included.
Yes.
I love reading these books.
Yes, yes, yes. Me too. Star, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, first of all, Laura, you're amazing for putting this together. What we have is an enormous toolbox of everything you could possibly need in every way. And every author has contributed to that. I'm having so much fun going through everything in the books. Anyway, my chapter is about the light end of this. It's about sacred laughter, when laughter becomes medicine. And speaking to things that you three ladies have talked about, there's getting stuck in patterns, and there's also ritual. And ritual can become stale and rigid. And I found myself during a silent ritual being very rigid. And in my chapter, explained how laughter changed the whole energy of what I was doing. And then feeling guilty because I was laughing, and this was a sacred ritual, and what was I doing and what was I thinking? Until I realized, these aren't just ancestors, these were people. They were real. They lived just like we did. They laughed, they cried, they felt. And being able to tap into that energy from them, which is much lighter, and in my way of thinking, a little bit more loving, rather than feeling as if there's someone out here who's going to tell you how this is and how it can be done. And I know a lot of that is patterns, but also approach it with a little bit of lightness, because there is humor in almost everything we do, including a ritual. And there was a particular part of the ritual I was doing where I made an ancestor feast. It was solemn and very serious about this whole thing. And everything had to be perfect and everything had to be just right on the plate. And when I put the feast outside, I went back to the ritual circle, all set to do everything very solemnly, until I heard my neighbor's dogs eating the ancestor feast. And all I could do was laugh. First, I was horrified. I ran to the door. And that's when I heard an ancestor very clearly say, there are two things that will get you through this life: laughter and prayer, and they are interchangeable. And my chapter's about that. It is interchangeable.
I love that so much. Your chapter, it in and of itself breaks a pattern for me. For me personally, I'm telling you that there were moments of growing up where everything seemed so serious, and if you
Oh, yeah.
spoke up or if you dared mess it up, you know,
Yeah, that's the right word.
yeah. Well, some of us dared a little bit, but you
Yeah.
know, I've lived too long now, and life is too short for everything to be so serious anymore. I'm glad I'm at that stage of life, but in the beginning, sometimes it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just because you're laughing does not mean you're disrespectful. And it's finding that line. Yes, there's lightness. Yes, there's humor. You can still have great respect for what you're doing. But everyone needs a good belly laugh every now and then.
Yeah, and it includes a moment I remember being at a funeral, right? Can we think of anything more
Yeah,
serious?
serious.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I hope our listeners understand really how these authors are going to help you not only break the patterns, but live the most amazing life, because and we talked about it already, your truth, you're living your truth that is the energy of joy, right?
Yeah.
So if some of you are not in that energy so much, I want you to pause and take that deep breath and ask yourself, whoa, why not?
Mhm.
And understand what's waiting for you. Star, thank you for your chapter.
Thank you.
And I had to chuckle about the dog. I was like, oh no, the dog's eating. Yeah, the dog's eating the feet. You guys are going to have to wait to read the chapter. Okay, it's such a great chapter. Okay, so this is kind of perfect, because this next question I have for all of you, Claire, I'm going to start with you for this one. It's a great role in from what we were just talking about, but for many of us, when we think about where we came from in terms of our ancestors, we actually don't have a very positive feeling at all for a lot of us. And this book is actually about celebrating and honoring those sacred origins. So like when we flip that switch and we look at where we came from in terms of our ancestors, and in terms of celebration, that's like a whole game-changing kind of energy there. That changes things. So Claire, talk to me about how you think about that. How do you turn that maybe negative idea to something that we can celebrate?
For me, it comes to potentially honoring the struggle, that I understand. In my story, I talk about that in my hand. The palmistry talked about my lineage, that we toil and toil, right? We work very hard for very little in my family. We come from Russian peasant stock. Everything was hard, but puritanical sort of space. And what I do is look at that in honoring and celebrating the learning that comes from that I do know how to do what it takes to make sure that I will survive. But I also honor that where they were, led me to be here, right? We celebrate the hardships as well as we celebrate the joy, and remembering that our ancestors, it's not all bad. They also usually got through it, right? They somehow helped us learn and grow through sometimes the pain. And learning that even though there's a lot of that hardship and a lot of that toil, I learned the joy of letting go. And I was able to celebrate that in honor of my ancestors, because my ancestors couldn't necessarily celebrate that. So I am able to then use that in a different light. It's not just condemning them because that's what they felt and that's how they pushed forward, is honoring them that that was their trial and celebrating them in that. Thank you for that information. Thank you for that lesson. And I'm going to celebrate that, flip it around so that I can use that for joy for our future. So it's taking it again and changing the perspective of, I don't have to perpetuate that toil. I can honor the toil to allow me to connect, get what I need from that. Know that because of that toiling, I can really carry anything on my back. I can handle it. I'm sturdy. I'm confident, but that I can take that and then do something else with it in the celebration of, thank you for giving that to me. And now I can see it for what it is, open it up and give it some new breath and new life moving forward.
I love how you started us off with the answer to that question. That was great. Thank you, Claire. Okay, Crystal, let's see how you're going to follow that. What do you want to add to that? Like, I think about this topic and sometimes like, I don't know that I want to go there. It's negative. There's some nasty stuff back there, but we're celebrating in this book. Like, help me out.
We absolutely are. And what Claire said, it was beautiful. And a lot of what I was going to share. So let's see if I can expand on it. You know, we forget that, I feel like sometimes we forget that the ancestors in our family also carry the wisdom. Yes, we have the pain and the trauma and the struggles and the hardships, but there's also amazing strengths and gifts and wisdom that has been passed down that we might not consciously know, but it lives within our blood, in our bones. It's within our bloodline. We would not be who we are today had it not been for each and every one that has walked the earth before us within our lineage. And we have to recognize that too, and honor that we breathe today because of what they experienced and how they came together and how they loved before us.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. I think that we're giving people some incredible perspective and ways to think about all of this and how they've been brought up, how their parents were brought up, how their parents were brought up. This is really important to understand this. Star, what would you want to add?
What I would add is finding the balance between the two. There is the negative, but there's also the positive. And we're, like you had said, we are here because of them. But because of them, we have their wisdom and experience to change patterns, to maybe make right something that was wrong way back then, to live a life that they not only gave us, but perhaps want for us, that they want us to be able to be happy. They worked hard so we could do that. And in return, we can honor them by finding balance within our own lives, by not repeating negative patterns, but at least recognizing them and trying to do something about it, because some of that can end with us, so that what we perpetuate is a little bit lighter for those who follow us.
I love I love
I'm
that
sorry.
too. No, I love that, the way that you're talking about that. I get it. Go ahead, finish what you're going to say.
We have our whole cheering section behind us. We have thousands of people. Everything they did made us who we are today. So did we get some of their negative stuff? Yes, but we sure got all their positive stuff. We can flip that switch to make that a learning experience, to change patterns, to create a better future, and to be more loving.
Okay, thank you, Star. Ariana, I'm gonna play devil's advocate with you, girl.
Okay, I'm ready.
You've heard everything, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna do the what if they were hurting people? What if they were participating in illegal activities? You know, I know I can play with you like this. What are you going to say to that? How do I switch that?
Yeah. So, you know, as I've been listening to everyone, one of the things that I'm recognizing in my own practice, I've been blessed to have amazing teachers, and many of them came from First Nations. And we kind of are probably all familiar with the consideration that First Nations give to 7 generations. And so one of the really interesting things that I've learned about that is when you just hear it, you think 7 generations back, but that's not how my Hopi teacher presented it to me. He said 3 generations back, yourself, and 3 generations forward. And that's an entirely different perspective. So when we look back at the generations and we see what we love or what we hate, that's only one piece of the picture. We are one of those generations. What will we do to heal those wounds? Who will we be? And more importantly, no matter who our ancestors were, I really believe any of them from their perspective now would look at us and say, quit worrying about me. Who are you being for the generations that come after you? This is what counts. This is your moment to change what's going on in the world. So if we spend too much energy looking back and regretting, judging, determining who those people are, we're wasting what could be lived today and turned in a new direction for our children, our grandchildren, and their children coming after them. And that for me feels so powerful. Like I have the ability, if something yucky is behind me, I have the ability to take the turn that changes that.
Yeah, that's huge. Claire?
Thank you, Ariana. That was beautifully said. And one of the best things that we can learn from our ancestors is that it's when we were talking about the fact that it's not just our lineage, it's all who walk this earth, right? We have to honor, because we have both sides of the story. As Ariana was talking about, how do we make that change? Because we can honor our ancestors that were hurt, as well as honoring the ancestors that did the hurting, and make that connection and that balance, as Star was talking about, in this present moment. And to honor both sides, and not just the hurt and not just who are doing the hurting, is understanding both sides. How do we allow that to come forward so that we aren't doing the hurting and we aren't hurting ourselves, right? So it's taking into consideration all of it and honoring all of it, and good and bad, and bringing that into healing in ourselves so that we don't have to perpetuate that forward. Ariana, that was beautifully said.
Yeah, there's been a lot of really big world-changing awareness. You all are sharing gifts of awareness in the book over and over again, as you are today, about these topics. You all walk a walk of awareness. It shows up in your daily lives in different ways. I want to do a kind of a quick answer version to this next question. So if I was going to answer, you know, how does Laura connect on a day-to-day? Well, I journal. That is my go-to. I walk in the woods, nature. Those tools, practices allow me to connect into that self, in that inner self, that inner wisdom, my intuition, that bigger place than me, right? So Crystal, name a way or two that you connect.
Oh, there's so many. Getting out in nature is so important for me, just to feel the sun and the breeze, and really allowing myself to be present in the moment and aware of and honoring what's happening within me at the time, regardless, but also having compassion. And so connecting from a heart space. So I would suggest just take a moment and place your hands on your heart and just breathe and drop into that space and allow that wisdom to share with you, to connect.
Awesome. Star, how do you do it? Give me one or
I
two
start
ways.
with gratitude
Yeah.
and the fact that I have breath and life, and that I am connected to everything around me. For me, it's much easier to be out in nature. So no matter what the season, I usually walk out in my backyard barefoot. I need to feel the earth underneath me and feel the heartbeat of the earth herself, and know that she carries the bones of all my ancestors, the bones of everyone who ever lived, and that I have that to draw upon for whatever I need. So I'm taken care of no matter what. So quit worrying about it. Do your work, do your best, and at the end of the day, call it good.
Yeah, gratitude's a big one for me too. Ariana, how about you? How do you connect?
I was having a hard time not giggling here because, first of all, I don't think I ever disconnect. So,
Yes.
it's kind of a walking with for me.
Mhm.
But I like to leave it open for spirit to give me the insights that I didn't have to think about or plan about. So I have this friend of mine gave me a gift, and it's a set of dice. And there are words on all the different sides of the dice. There's one big one that's red, and then there are 6 little ones that are white, and all of them have different words. And so when you roll the dice, then you get, like, today's word was soul. And then the 3 words that were on the white dice were create, family, and joy. And so, you get 6 of them. I pick 3 each day that seem right. And then I just let myself kind of connect to what the kind of magic and mystery of that will be. How will this show up in my life today? What does soul mean to me? How are these words around family connected? And I like to make my spiritual connection, I like to open for communication to come to me in that kind of unpredictable way that leaves me pondering and contemplating and more aware in my day-to-day life. And you could do that by putting words in a jar and pulling words out. You could do it by pulling a card every day, but that kind of opening that says, okay, show me you could do it with a book, like an animal book. Let yourself, open a page randomly and go, okay, the animal I'm learning about today is this. I like that part of connecting that is, what does spirit want to tell me? And so I like using tools in that way.
Yeah.
I looked up iguana in my spirit animal medicine book the other day for the first time ever. I think iguana came in. It was a good one too. I love that, Ariana. Claire, how about you? How do you connect? What's 1 or 2 ways you do it?
Like Ariana, for myself, it's trying to maintain that connection. And one of the ways that I learn to focus is identifying and anchoring in at my hara space, that authentic, organic, soul, physical space, so that I can hear my higher self. I can hear the wisdom from my ancestors. I can hear the way that the earth is asking me to move forward, and align myself with those frequencies so that I can continue to walk with as much authenticity as I can for for myself and for raising the frequencies as my contribution to the rest of the world. So I connect in that space to the trees, to the sky, to the air, to my loved ones, to my ancestors in that space, because it is the space where I am connected to all of it. And that's my favorite way to do it, and one that I think is very useful.
So thank you, Claire. And something a couple of you have said, and I'm realizing now too, I think that most of the author experts in these books, most of our brave healers have created a discipline out of the connection practice. It's more like they notice now when they fall out of the connection so that they can hop right back in again. Both you, Ariana, and Claire are making me know that. So I want to tell the listeners that's the game, you guys. That's the key. It's the answer to pretty much everything you want in your life, is to be present in the moment that you're gifted with right now and explore from that space. And this book gives us so many amazing ways to explore. I have one last question for all of you. And I really want you to keep those listeners, our viewers, in mind today. Star, what piece of advice would you give someone who might just be stepping onto this journey to understanding ancestral healing? It's a big topic. To give them,
Trust yourself.
Yet, okay, you already have it. Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. You have everything you need inside of you. You don't need to go outside. Take the time to listen. Take the time to be quiet. Take the time, as all of us have said, to connect with everything and allow it to be. Don't manipulate it. Don't try to change it, and simply be. Because so seldom do you see people fully present. They're walking down the street on their phones. They're not connected to what's around them, and that's the key. But also trust. If you don't trust who you are, you're going to have a difficult time absorbing what you need.
I love it. Perfect.
And what you are is perfect the way you are.
Yes. Good reminder. Ariana, what's your version of advice for someone stepping onto the path? Maybe something simple.
Yeah, don't make your spirituality work. Like, spirituality is about being present, enjoying, the universe has your back. It really does. And once you understand that the universe has your back, it's everything that happens. Suddenly you look at it and go, wow, this crummy thing is taking me somewhere amazing because I know the universe has my back. I know that the universe is always moving me toward what is my greatest expression. And I have gotten through a lot of really difficult moments recognizing that the universe has my back and looking for what good will come from whatever I'm experiencing in the moment.
Yeah, nice one. Powerful one. Claire, how about you? What's your piece of advice?
It really is about, like the other ladies said, it's about trust, right? So release doubt. Don't talk yourself out of the gloriousness that comes through you. Just because you're getting it and it's not coming from someone else's lips does not discount it. You gotta trust yourself to be able to hear what you're getting. Follow your signs. They'll give you confirmation. And let the doubt go. Use your imagination. It's all part of the gift.
I love it. All right, Crystal, you're going to close us out today on this last one. What's your piece of advice?
Stay grounded and willing to be able to receive and be with whatever shows up, regardless of it. And it does come back to that trust, but just be present to it all and be okay with it. Like, don't judge it, just be okay with it.
Yes. So all of you have such powerful offerings and support and tools. I just want to thank you all so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. What a gift to be able to be here with the four of you. That's a great honor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amazing.
All right, you guys, I know you're curious. I know one of these amazing authors has said something to pique that curiosity. And maybe you have a question or you just need next steps on your journey. So come on down into the show notes because I have hooked all of these authors up with their websites and they are very generously there for your next steps to answer a question, for support. So go take an exploration on their websites, see what's up in their world. They are up to a lot of awesomeness. And remember to join us for our live stream book launch party, September 16th at noon Eastern. We're going to gather with all of the ancestors within Celebrate and Honor Your Sacred Origins authors. They're going to be sharing their wisdom. That's going to be on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. And if you happen to be listening to this after that date, well, that means you should hop over to Amazon and grab your copy of this powerful book. Lastly, today, everyone remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. It's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Bye,
Thank
ladies.
you.